Welcome to the SVG-TV news for today, Tuesday, August 16th. I am Khalil Kato with the details. Ministerial portfolio changes have been announced by Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves. The PM, who recently returned from an official state visit to Taiwan, chaired a press conference today to provide updates on a number of government matters. PM Gonsalves disclosed that he will take on the responsibility of the newly established Ministry of Tertiary Education. The Education Miscellaneous Amendment Act was laid in Parliament last month and outlined the plans for government to give special attention to the management of tertiary education in SVG. PM Gonsalves says he will shed some of the responsibilities under the Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
You saw Minister King went to Parliament on the 25th, piloted an amendment, Education Miscellaneous Amendment Bill. And the simple provision there was to remove the provision which says the Minister of Education, but to be replaced essentially by the person responsible for the subject matter. Well, I am going to I have to send the instrument up to the Governor General. I'm going to take ministerial responsibility for post-secondary education, which means the community college and tertiary education. I've been involved in them, but I'm going to take the responsibility for those, and I'm going to shed the ministerial responsibility for foreign affairs, foreign trade, and also for the regional integration diaspora unit. Naturally, you can't have foreign policy without the Prime Minister being involved, but I'm talking about the ministerial responsibility, some of the nuts and bolts.
PM Gonsalves also announced that Senator Kiesel Peters will be heading the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Peters was the state minister with responsibility for foreign affairs for the last 2 years.
The Kiesel is going to be promoted. Kiesel is going to be promoted. She has done well as a Minister of State. So, but the instruments are prepared, but there's one or two little administrative things I have to put in place before I actually do the formalization with Her Excellency, the Governor General, under the relevant constitutional provisions.
PM Gonsalves revealed that over 50 teachers have submitted applications to the Ministry of Education for re-employment following the government's invitation for unvaccinated teachers to reapply. The St. Vincent and the Grenadines Teachers Union, the SVG-TU, had previously stated that its members who were dismissed from service last year for refusing to comply with government's COVID-19 vaccine mandate would not be reapplying. The group has made repeated calls for its members to be reinstated with full benefits and damages. PM Gonsalves told the media he was provided with the recent update during a meeting yesterday with the Ministry of Education.
They had a meeting with the officials in the Ministry of Education. It was reported to me that as of midday yesterday, there might have been other applicants, that 55 teachers applied for resumption of work. Some of them have taken the vaccines and come aboard, and others who are not vaccinated have applied for employment.
PM Gonsalves says he has asked the Public Service Commission to extend the deadline for applications to next Monday so as to allow more teachers to submit applications. He once again issued a plea for dismissed teachers to come forward for re-employment.
Tomorrow, the Ministry of Education is sending up a number of names for persons to be appointed to positions for the Public Service Commission, which is meeting on Thursday. They had put yesterday as the deadline for applying. I've asked them if they can extend the deadline to Monday, because I suspect that more teachers may wish to apply. if you are a party to the case, or you want to wait until the case where the teachers, public servants, other frontline workers challenging the constitutionality of the government's requirement, and which they didn't follow, and as a result, they abandoned their jobs. Put yourself in a possible win-win situation now. Apply for your job. It's not a trick. You can still pursue your case.
The case brought against the government by the SVG-TU returns to court in November. The Royal St. Vincent and the Grenadines Police Force, the Police Cooperative Credit Union, and the SVG Ex-Police Association jointly awarded scholarships and bursaries to several students today. The recipients of the scholarships and bursaries are students who completed this year's CPEA examination. Speaking at the scholarship handing over ceremony, Senior Education Officer Joyce Blake Brown expressed thanks to the three organizations for investing in the students' academic lives.
Once again, give tribute to the Royal St. Vincent and the Grenadines Police Force, because I know they don't just give scholarships. I know they are also involved in other activities in our schools. So students, make this opportunity count. Perhaps sometime in the future, some of you young boys, girls, might be our future police commissioner, sergeant, you never know, the prime minister, teacher, banker, pastor. So we believe in you. We see greatness in you. And you know, you have, Almighty God would have placed many potentials in you. So it's just for you to reach those potential and be guided, always be guided by the word of God. So even while you're reading your books, find time to ask God for that guidance that you need as you make that transition into secondary school. I just want to wish each and every one of you all of the best.
The senior education officer further encouraged recipients to continue to excel in school as they go on to the secondary level, also warning them of the dangers that could occur if they do not remain focused.
If you are not satisfied with your performance at the primary level, you have another opportunity to do even better. So this is a time to sit and relax and think about your performance, your previous performance, and think about what you can do to improve. And I would just like to point out a few, maybe just a few areas in which you can improve. First of all, your attitude. Because sometimes you have some students in school, they are very smart, they do their work, but the attitude does not match. So first and foremost, pay attention to your attitude. Make sure that I know, as I said before, your teachers would have laid the foundation, and they would have provided you with many opportunities to build your attitude, to build that character, to provide you with so many positive opportunities on your journey to becoming the best that you can be. So you need to look back and ask yourself, do I have the right attitude? Do I need to change? So perhaps if you didn't have the best of attitude while you're in the primary schools, you have an opportunity to reset that button and make sure that you're going into secondary school with a more positive attitude.
Commissioner of the Royal St. Vincent and the Grenadines Police Force thanked members of the constabulary for making the scholarship bursary initiative possible. He notes that each member of the police force contributes $20, which goes towards the scholarship award.
Very rich history, and I just want to thank my forebears for the tremendous foresight that they had when they decided to start this initiative. A brief history of it is that each person who joined the Royal St. Vincent and Grenadines Police Force, a sum of $20 is taken from each member's salary every month. and goes towards a pool for the scholarship fund. Persons, some police officers, they benefit significantly from it because they have a lot of children. Some who, for one reason or the other, chose by chance weren't able to achieve that goal or have children, they do not benefit from that facility. We, however, assist them sometime if they have relatives or friends to give them some aspect of the scholarship.
The Commissioner of Police used the opportunity to encourage students to continue to work hard and avoid wasting time. He also encouraged them to not only excel in education, but also in extracurricular activities.
So, whenever you go into secondary school, you have to first listen to your teacher. If you talking while they are talking, then it is very likely that you would miss some very important instructions. And then when time to revise, you might have some difficulties in that area. You have to participate in school activities. Not only the educational aspect of it, but sporting activities. There are a lot of great persons in the world. You have the Lionel Messi, you have the Usain Bolt, you have the Skinny Fabulous, and persons, they are they're primarily known not because of their educational attributes or what they have attained educationally, but because of certain skills that they have.
113 police recruits will join the ranks of the Royal St. Vincent and the Grenadines Police Force during the 40th Passing Out Parade, which will be held on Thursday, August 18th at the Victoria Park. Prime Minister and Minister of National Security Dr. Ralph Gonsalves is among the officials expected to address the parade. During the ceremony, the recruits will take the oath of office as police officers in accordance with the Police Act of 2018. One of the highlights of the ceremony will be the announcement of the best recruit and winner of the Commissioner's Trophy and the Baton of Honor, among other awards. The parade will be inspected by Governor General, Her Excellency Dame Susan Duggan. In addition to the PM's address, remarks will also come from Commissioner of Police Colin John and Commandant of the Police Training School, Assistant Superintendent of Police Tekla Andrews Thomas. The feature address will be delivered by Bishop Gilbert Porter, Senior Pastor at the Lowmans Hill New Testament Church of God. A technical support team from the Ministry of Agriculture recently examined farms owned by young persons to offer technical support and advice as part of the assistance program for young farmers. The team conducted checks for pests and diseases in eggplants and cabbage, as well as fertilizer application method checks in root crops. Young farmers in District 5 East, Donald Simon and Randy Clark, were two of the farmers visited by the team. They were able to identify major pests and diseases such as the diamond back moths, aphids, whiteflies, black rot in cabbage, and cabbage loopers. Some of the findings coming out of the farm visit were that some vegetables were planted too closely together, and some plants experienced color rot due to high molding, which eventually wilted and died. It was also observed that fertilizers were applied too close to the base of some crops. Based on what was discovered, a number of technical recommendations and advice were given to address the problems of pests and diseases, fertilizer types and application timing and methods, spacing and intercropping. The young farmers will be provided with required training, support, and advice on an ongoing basis to assess their concerns and progress. The CARICOM Reparations Commission, the CRC, is taking steps to ensure that Indigenous peoples are also included in the fight for reparatory justice. This was revealed by Chairperson of the Antigua and Barbuda Reparations Committee and Vice President of the CRC, Dobreen Omard, during his presentation at the Oscar Allen Public Lecture hosted by the University of the West Indies Open Campus in Kingstown. The lecture was part of the activities to celebrate the month of emancipation, which runs from August 1st to 31st. Omard says the acts of genocide committed by the British against the indigenous peoples of St. Vincent and the Grenadines is sufficient grounds to lay a claim for reparatory justice.
The CRC recognized fully native genocide as this crime against humanity. And so that the reparations claim on Europe is also focused on the historical facts and wonderful historical facts documented here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, for example, of the removal of indigenous people to the small islands, Baliso and Bataway, yes, okay, help me to that. To live in conditions where lizards could not survive. And we're talking about documentation in British archives. This is one thing about them, they kept amazing records. And they have now been moved to start destroying some of them. But I think that our historians have managed to get into it.
Omard says the 10-point plan for the reparations outlines developmental programs for indigenous communities here in SVG and in the region.
What the plan, the 10-point plan calls for, as I mentioned, is a development program aimed specifically at the indigenous communities that are existing still in this region. The University of the West Indies has been offering things like scholarships, I think 5 to 10 scholarships a year to those indigenous communities. The whole question of land ownership by indigenous people, traditional land ownership, is again on the front burner in countries like Dominica, for example, where those conversations are again there. And so within the CRC, within the 10-point plan, it is the development of that indigenous development program for indigenous people that is the focus.